I saw it. The staircase. So how do we get out? He asked with a smirk. I gulped. I could see he could sense my fear and anticipation to leave that horrible place. I pointed silently at the staircase symbol in the west. Very good, he exclaimed, and in that moment a sick gratitude and appreciation for this horrible man raised inside me. My tendency to latch on to those who hurt me was starting to show. I was still crying, terrified, but he was my only lifeline, and I knew that he knew it. Now tell me, how do we get there? I don't know, I stuttered out. He turned the piece of paper around so that it faced me and started to talk. He told me about the history of the building, the basement, the Book of the Dead and some other things. I don't know, I wasn't listening to him. I heard that door slamming again and again. Each time I would jump and he wouldn't even flinch. I was staring down at the plan behind watery eyes whilst he spoke. He stopped talking after a long time, I don't know how long. He took his hand and pointed down at the page, in between two bookcases in the center of the plan. You are here, he said, slowly. He hardly had to take a breath in before I snapped out of my state, snatched the plan from his hands and ran in the direction that I knew was toward the stairs. I hardly had to look down at the plan as I rushed to the stairs. I had already analyzed the plan in my mind by the time he'd finished talking. It took me a couple of glances down at the paper to confirm which way I was going. I started to hear my own breath panting and my feet on the ground. My God, it was good to hear it again. I reached the stairs and shouted in joy as I ran my way up, tripping as I went, hitting my knee on a step. I knew I was injured, but I didn't care. I didn't for one moment look behind me to see if Mark was there. I figured, without the plan he wouldn't be able to find his way back. I took a sigh of relief and caught my breath before opening the doors. I placed my hand on the wood, when I heard screaming behind it. I retracted my arm. Oh God, what's going on? I muttered under my breath. I slowly opened the door. The library atrium was filled with smoke, and as I took a step into the room, I realized that the fire alarm was blaring. I saw people running, bloodied, broken limbs, students crawling. One of my course mates was decapitated on the floor in front of me. Blood everywhere on the floor. I stepped out into the center of the atrium. I glanced up through the void of the floors and I saw fire. A large piece of wooden cladding came soaring down in flames. I stepped out of the way in the last minute as I screamed for my life. I knew that a fire exit was only a few feet away and I dashed in that direction. Sophia, please help me. I heard Emily scream behind me. I turned before I pushed through the fire exit door to see her broken body crawling across the floor. My eyes watered and I stood there, still. I couldn't move. I snapped out of my stupor and ran to her. Before I could reach even a foot away, a huge machete came soaring down onto Emily's head, slicing it in half. Brains spilled out onto the carpet. I stumbled back and fell, seeing Mark's face above me. His face was covered in blood, burned by the fire and menacing. I realized at this moment that the whole thing was a trick. The door slamming in the basement. They were explosions. Oh God, no, I whispered to myself, realization flooding through me. Mark stepped toward me as he wiped the knife on his brown suit trousers and laughed. There were dead bodies scattered across the floor behind him, students running for their lives, screaming. There was so much noise from the screams and the roaring fire above, that it almost deafened me. I saw one person fall from the top floor and hit the ground with a crack. I wailed out in shock when I saw that it was Carly Diaz, lying motionless, deformed next to Emily's limp body. Mark had heard her fall, and turned around to look. He cracked up into horrible, hysterical laughter. He quickly turned to me with the evil grin which is embedded in my mind, and through laughter he said these words that I will never forget for as long as I live. I lied, Sophia. It was all about the roof terrace.